What's up, guys? Now, UFC 235 has just wrapped up, and it was a decent card. The main event and co-main event were a bit lackluster, but some good performances. Some good fight IQ. If you're looking for an exciting, explosive fight, the main and co-main event weren't the fights you're probably looking for. But as a whole, the card delivered, in my opinion. We're going to start with the main event there. Jon Jones beating Anthony Smith by 48-44 on all scorecards, which is a very strange scorecard. And that's mostly because he got 2 points deducted in the fourth round for an illegal knee. And actually, Anthony Smith could have won the fight by DQ. Jon Jones' 2 losses could have been both by DQ, which is insane. And just shows how good he is, technically. Now, when we look at the fight, it was pretty much the same every single round. Actually, the longer the fight went, the more Anthony Smith didn't really do anything. In the first round, it was pretty close. They were both finding their range for the most part. Anthony Smith did have the better boxing, like I anticipated, but he just couldn't get past the kicks, and the takedown threat seemed to be a factor. Jones was using the pulse and retreat. It was working on Smith. Then Jones just started letting off kicks, and then in the third and fourth round, if I remember correctly, especially the fourth round, he was letting off his punches a lot more. And Smith was eating them. After the third round, Smith really let off on his offense. He wasn't throwing anything. He was just sitting back. Even when he got taken down, he was kind of just like sitting up, and there was that point where Jones was kneeling and just punching him and stuff. It was a very weird thing to see. And I know there are a lot of people probably screaming at their TVs, Smith, do something, man. Just go out there, go for broke. You have nothing to lose. You're losing the fight. I was watching with some people. It was a bit frustrating for the people watching with me because Smith definitely had opportunities. He definitely had openings, and he didn't take every opening he had. And I think if he did, he would have showed everybody how good he actually is. And Jones just really couldn't find his own big openings. It looked like he didn't risk things too much. He definitely respected Anthony Smith, which is a good thing. But yeah, not too much else happened in the fight. But yeah, what's next for these two guys? For Jon Jones, I say maybe Thiago Santos if he wants to keep busy. Keep defending the belt. Why not? Go after Thiago Santos. I know people want to see him at heavyweight, which if he goes to heavyweight, there's a lot of good matchups for him. I think Stipe Miocic would be a good one. People want to see Daniel Cormier, that does well. But I think the Thiago Santos fight, just to stay more active, would be better. And as for Anthony Smith, him versus Gustafsson, it makes a lot of sense. They're both the top-ranked fighters. It would be an excellent matchup, great striking matchup, good takedown defense for both of them. And then we go to the co-main event. Kamaru Usman, man. Kamaru Usman beats Tyron Woodley by decision. I think it was 50-44 on the scorecards. Some of those rounds could have been easily 10-8. He dominated the fight. He completely shut down Tyron Woodley. Kamaru Usman showed next high-level fight IQ out there, man. Stuck to a game plan, stuck to a routine, pushed forward patiently, looking at the right hand of Tyron Woodley, and just stuffed it. He got too close too quick for the right hand of Woodley from the distance he was keeping. He had Woodley honest with his own striking and just wrestled him. And I was surprised of how much stronger Usman was. I understand he takes on everybody. He does this thing to everybody he fights. But to do it to Tyron Woodley where nobody's able to do it, it was kind of stunning, man. And he started just gassing him out, wearing on him to the point where even when Woodley was landing the right hand, it didn't have enough steam anymore. It was a great game plan from Kamaru Usman and his camp. And it got to, I think it was the fourth round, it might have been the fifth, where Usman finally felt comfortable exchanging with Woodley. He was getting the better of the exchanges, just swinging at Woodley, but it was just overall such a great performance, man. And it leads you to believe Colby Covington could have possibly had that shot. I know there was a lot of arguments, a lot of debate about Colby versus Tyron Woodley. That fight can probably happen now. It just shows you cannot underestimate these high-pressuring, high-volume, non-stop wrestlers like Colby and like Usman. And frankly, that kind of performance, it's hard to see people beat Usman. He's never lost in the UFC. He went from the Ultimate Fighter where people had very high expectations for him into finally beating the champion, which people didn't give him too many chances, And who these guys should be fighting next? For Kamaru Usman, it's kind of hard here because people will say a rematch, but that was such a one-sided fight. I don't know if you could do the rematch and how things go with Tyron Woodley. It's going to be kind of hard for him. So Colby can be right there. Colby can fight either fighter. He can fight Tyron or he can fight Kamaru Usman. Let's say if Colby fights Tyron, there isn't many fighters up there. You can probably give him Stephen Thompson, maybe. You can't give him Darren Till. You cannot give him RDA. You can't give him Robbie Lawler. Ben Askren, I think, is a little bit too soon. He did beat Lawler, but, he got battered out there, right? I think he should be, if it was a dominant victory over Lawler and he could talk up the title fight, I think they could be doing that, but I think another fight for Ben Askren should be good. So it could be Stephen Thompson, or they could throw him Santiago Ponzinibbio if they want to really get a little bit risky out there. But if I were to choose, I would love to see the Colby fight. Colby versus Kamaru Usman is a high-paced wrestling fight. I mean, two guys with insane gas tanks like that just keep going back and forth with each other. That would be a fight to watch. As for Tyron Woodley, he's beating so many fighters in this division, man. I would love to see him maybe fight Santiago Ponzinibbio. That would be an excellent fight. I think it's a very even fight there. And then we go to Robbie Lawler versus Ben Askren, where Ben Askren wins by submission 3 minutes and 20 seconds into the first round. Now, what do you say about this fight? I already made my breakdown on the fight, so if you guys want to see what I think of the stoppage, I recommend you guys checking that out. But all in all, man, I didn't think the stoppage was good. Robbie Lawler seemed to be fine in there, and he gave the thumbs up to Herb Dean. I had someone on Twitter telling me that Robbie Lawler wasn't responsive, which it was obviously he was. He was very responsive to Herb Dean, and Herb Dean still called it off. I don't know what it was, maybe panic. From looking at Herb Dean's facial expressions, all that stuff, it looked like he knew he made a mistake. And I just don't know why they didn't go to a replay. That seemed kind of strange to me too. Ben Askren came out there, tried to wrestle. Like I said in my prediction video, Robbie Lawler has excellent takedown defense. People underplayed it, and it showed to be true. Yes, he got taken down against the cage, but he defended a couple takedowns, especially that first one where he was eventually able to slam Ben Askren and land insane ground and pound, which you got to give Ben Askren credit, man. He took the ground and pound shots and continued forward. That was kind of Ben Askren's initiation into the UFC. He had to go through something like that. But he's tough, man. I mean, when you come from that world, when you come from Olympic level wrestling, grinding all the way to that level, I mean, you gotta be tough. But on the ground there, Robbie Lawler kind of abandoned technique, and Ben Askren was able to get the choke, and that's what costed Lawler the position in the first place. And Lawler said before the fight that he just doesn't want to get caught in anything stupid, and he kind of put himself in that kind of position, you know what I'm saying? So it'll probably be a fight Robbie Lawler look back at and learn from. So good performance for Ben Askren. You can't blame him for anything. He fought out there. He didn't even know the fight was going to get stopped like that. So good performance for Ben Askren. I'd love to see Ben Askren fight Damian Maia. That's the fight, I think. The two best grapplers in the division going at each other. I think that would be a very fun fight to watch. As for Robbie Lawler, I don't think he'll fall too far because of the performance and because of the controversy. I would love to see Robbie Lawler versus Stephen Thompson. That is absolutely the fight to make. Standing fight, the brawler versus the technician, even though Lawler's pretty technical himself. Can Lawler get inside that distance? Can his defense be enough to get past some of the attacks of Stephen Thompson? I have a feeling Thompson will frustrate Lawler out there, but I'm very curious about that fight. I did miss the Tecia Torres versus Weili Zhang fight. Then we go to Cody Garbrandt versus Pedro Munoz. Munoz knocking out Garbrandt in the first round, 4 minutes and 52 seconds. What can you say about this fight, man? Garbrandt looked pretty good out there. His footwork, his head movement was pretty good. His boxing was pretty sharp. Fast hands as always. Munoz was trying to land that overhand right. And once he was able to catch Garbrandt, I think there was a headbutt in there that stunned Garbrandt a little bit. But Garbrandt threw technique out the window and just brawled with Munoz. And like I said in my prediction video, when I saw that happen, I'm like, oh my gosh, this guy's gonna get caught. Because, like I said in my prediction video, Garbrandt keeps his head straight up and open when he's exchanging. And what was Munoz doing? He was throwing these overhands and stuff, but he was getting his head off the center line. Garbrandt's head was on the center line the whole time. He was getting caught clean several times in those exchanges and eventually got put down when he was throwing his own right hand. When he threw his right hand and turned his head with it, he got caught with a right overhand at the same time, and that impact just doubled and flatlined him. Insane win for Pedro Munoz. The way that he was able to beat Cody Garbrandt, I think was a bit more of an upset than anything else on this card. But who these guys should be fighting next, that's a huge statement for Pedro Munoz. I mean, being the number 2 ranked opponent while he's number 9. I would like to see the Aljamain Sterling fight. I think that fight makes a lot of sense, and it's very entertaining. Two highly skilled grapplers with decent striking. Munoz more of a boxer on the feet. Sterling a lot more kicks and quite similar BJJ styles, very slick. I would love to see that fight. As for Cody Garbrandt, he's in a tough position. There's 3 losses in a row, all knockouts. And we don't want to see a guy like him getting knocked out the way he is. I think a fight with Jimmy Rivera will be a good one. Rivera coming off a loss himself. I think it'll be a good fight for both guys to bounce back on. And then we go to the prelims, and the prelims really delivered. Jeremy Stephens versus Zabit Magomedov. Zabit wins 29-28 in all the scorecards. And it was a tactical fight. Jeremy Stephens was trying to land those overhands. He was trying to land that right hand especially. A lot of them came really, really short. He was just winging them out there. He wasn't really setting them up. He was just waiting for Zabit to come in on him as he was pressuring forward, and he caught Zabit one time pretty clean with it when Zabit was trying to rotate to his left, ran right into the right hand. But Zabit, like everybody, thought he was just going to use his reach and land straight shots from the outside, throw a lot of kicks. I was just wondering why he didn't go for takedowns as often, because when he took down Jeremy Stephens, he was in complete control. A lot more safe for him, the path of least resistance. But he was very content on standing with Stephens and just making a very tactical fight. For some reason, the crowd was booing Zabit. I don't understand what that was. I don't know if they thought Jeremy Stephens won the fight or they just didn't like Zabit's performance. I think it was a solid performance. It wasn't mind-blowing. It didn't blow you back or anything, but it was a solid performance, tactical fight. But Zabit really starts slowing down, and we all had the concern about his cardio issues. But we all thought it was because he explodes so much and he moves unnecessarily sometimes and just explodes, you know? But this fight was moderately paced. Nothing crazy. Zabit didn't do anything crazy that much besides one Showtime kick. But for the most part, it was just a lot of jabs from the outside, a couple kicks. Like your average kind of pace of a fight. And he's still fatigued in the third round. It seems to be an issue. And I know I picked Zabit as a nightmare matchup last year for Max Holloway. Man, I'm just going to tell you guys, I might just take that back all in general because I do think he will be very competitive with Max Holloway in the first 2 rounds. But once that third round hits, because I know Zabit is not going to finish Holloway that early. Once that third round hits, Holloway's just going to take over and swarm Zabit. His biggest weakness is that cardio issue. And also, I saw that he had a problem disengaging from Stephens. Whenever he engaged, he would throw a couple shots, and if they weren't that effective to get the opponent to back up off of him, he had a hard time backing up himself, and Stephens was able to land a couple shots because of it. So that's a risky one, man, especially fighting guys like Jose Aldo or something. I think Jose Aldo is probably the hardest guy for Zabit to fight in the entire division. But who these guys should be fighting next? For Zabit, he's going to jump in the top 7, I believe. I think he should take Jeremy Stephens' spot. I think him versus Renato Moicano would be the fight to make. I think it'd be a good fight. 2 long, rangy strikers with great grappling. Renato Moicano is very slick on the ground with his BJJ. He takes a little bit more of a Muay Thai-esque of a style in Zabit's Wushu Sanda. It'll be pretty interesting, man. I would love to see that one because I think Volkanovski deserves a title shot or a higher ranked opponent than that, and he won't fight Frankie Edgar. Ortega's an option, but I have a feeling it might be Jose Aldo versus Ortega for some reason. I see that happening. And as for Jeremy Stephens, he just lost to the number 13 ranked. I know Zabit doesn't belong as the number 13, but it's going to drop Stephens a bit. There's some good matches for him down there. I think him versus Chan Sung Jung is a good fight. Him versus Darren Elkins is a good fight. The fight I would love to see the most is him versus Korean Zombie. That'll be an absolute war, insane brawl. And then we go to Misha Cirkunov versus Johnny Walker. Johnny Walker just running through these guys, man. He went by knockout 36 seconds into the fight. The guy's a beast. He's just an absolute beast. We had some questions about him. Maybe he doesn't have the fight IQ. Maybe he can't do well against grapplers, all that stuff. I mean, he came out there and showed Misha Cirkunov many looks. Many feints were getting thrown at Misha. It looked like he was downloading the data on the reactions of Cirkunov, switched into orthodox, and got Cirkunov to react again where he ducked his head, a grappler's tendencies, a grappler's instinct, and Walker just threw that flying knee like it was nothing. Like he expected it. Landed flush on Cirkunov. I mean, Walker's precision and timing is impeccable. Definitely a threat to everybody in this division, including Jones and Gustafsson. His celebration was pretty funny because his opponents can't hurt him, but only he can hurt himself. He injured himself in his celebration. How crazy is that? He didn't even get hit in the fight. He didn't get hit in his last fight. I don't even think he got hit in his fight before that. And the only time he got hurt is because he landed on his shoulder wrong in his celebration of a 36-second fight. I mean, Johnny Walker's the man. Definitely one of my favorites right now. But who these guys should be fighting next? They're both very close in the rankings. And although Johnny Walker did beat a ranked opponent, I think they should still rise him slowly. So I think him versus OSP would actually be a very fun stylistic matchup. I think that would test him in all areas, like athleticism to the unorthodox striking, to the unorthodox grappling. I mean, it will really test Johnny Walker, and that's something I really want to see now. Him versus a crafty veteran in OSP. As for Misha Cirkunov, I mean, he's fallen on some tough times. He was that prospect. He was that guy like Johnny Walker in the light heavyweight division everybody was looking at. But 3 losses in a row like that, he should take someone outside the top 15, I think. And I think him versus Nikita Krylov would be an excellent fight. More of a striker versus grappler matchup, but I think it would test both of them very well to rise in the rankings. And then the next fight I watched was Diego Sanchez versus Mickey Gall, where Diego Sanchez won by TKO in the second round, 4 minutes and 13 seconds. Diego Sanchez, man, doing the thing. He's still winning fights out here. I mean, he just won his last fight against a big welterweight, and then he just beat the young prospect and Mickey Gall and finished him by TKO. I mean, when was the last time Diego Sanchez ever knocked out anybody or TKO'd anybody? Get this. Diego Sanchez's last TKO win was in 2008. 2008 against Luigi Fioravanti. That is insane. And frankly, that's also at welterweight. So maybe he has a little bit more power, but it was the veteran experience. That's what took over this fight, as well as him having the skill on the ground. It was a bad fight for Mickey Gall in the beginning because Mickey Gall isn't that much of a striker. He doesn't have that kind of knockout power. He isn't that crafty on the feet. His skill on the feet wasn't enough to trump the experience on the feet that Diego Sanchez had. Sanchez was able to not get caught clean with many shots, and when the fight got to the ground, he is a black belt in BJJ, while Mickey Gall is a brown belt. People forgot about that. Even though Sanchez is older, the skill, the technique on the ground doesn't really go away and able to beat the bigger man. Mickey Gall has some cardio issues as well. He gassed out into the second round. I mean, that's pretty bad, you know. And he's fighting a smaller guy too. He's not fighting against that much weight. You know what I'm saying? So if he's going to have problems against someone like Diego Sanchez, how is he going to perform against the bigger welterweights? So it's a great win for Diego Sanchez, man. Turning back the clock in a sense. Man, for Diego Sanchez, even though he's winning these fights, I just don't want to see him fighting the top guys. I think they should be careful who they pick for him. So maybe Chad Laprise, even though that is a dangerous matchup, I think Sanchez has some opportunities to beat a guy like Laprise. Court McGee would be another fun matchup. So yeah, Court McGee would be a safer matchup, where Laprise has more opportunities to knock out Diego Sanchez. So yeah, I actually do like Court McGee in favor for Diego Sanchez, because the fight will most likely get to the ground. That's where Sanchez is going to have the biggest opportunities. And yeah, so I like to see Court McGee versus Diego Sanchez. And as for Mickey Gall, it's a tough position for him, man. Him versus Zach Otto would be a good one, I guess. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did, make sure to give it a thumbs up. If you enjoyed my content, make sure to subscribe. So yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.